Welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I'm doing a video response, which I do off and on, but this one is for Novabug, who I haven't done a video response to in ages. He was just talking on the weekend about the new PlayStation Mini Classic, whatever the heck it's called, and he posed an interesting question that I thought I would maybe chime in on. What would be the 20 games you would put on that console? Now, I'm not going to get this PlayStation Mini Classic, whatever the heck it's going to be called, because A, I don't have that much nostalgia for the PlayStation 1 era, and B, I already have a couple of PlayStation 1 Minis. I've got this one with the little backlit screen, so I can play any PlayStation game I want, and in addition, I have the sort of former version of this PlayStation Classic, something a lot of other people have talked about. I've got the PS TV, so I can already download and get hundreds, well, okay, depending on the memory card, I can download a lot of PlayStation 1 games and play them to my heart's content on a high-definition TV in a very small form factor with a controller that has dual analog sticks on it. Why would I get the PlayStation Classic? But you know what? I thought it was an interesting question that Novabug posed. What would be the games that you would choose? And I thought, okay, now the games that I am going to put here are games that I would either, some of them I already have, and some of them I really, really badly want. So I thought, okay, well, is this just games I don't have or what? And I'm going to go for all the standard. I think the way Novabug said it is, it doesn't have to be the classics that everybody is going to be choosing, obviously, like Final Fantasy VII and that kind of stuff. You're going to have all of those, and Metal Gear Solid. Everybody's going to choose that. What would be your PlayStation Classics on this machine? What would be your 20 games? And rather than make this a very, very long video, I'm going to rifle through like a bunch of these pretty quickly, because 20 of them is going to take a while. But there are some that I got to hit the brakes. So let's start off at the beginning. That has to be Road Blasters / Thunder Force. It's a combination disc that is only available in Japan. I've been keeping my eyes open for it. I really, really want it, and it is my #1 choice to be on this console. Why? Because it's kind of, they're not great games. One of those two games is very, very valuable to me, and I really, really want to get this game, or this combo disc. So maybe I'm cheating by putting two games in my #1 spot, but they both come on the same disc, so Road Blasters / Thunder Force, that would be my #1 choice. My #2 choice I already own, and that is Tempest X3. I'm not going to say too much about it. It's Tempest. If you've been interested in the new Tempest 4000, this is like its 90s origin version. It looks great, plays great. Also on the Atari Jaguar. Great game. I would definitely put that on my list. And because the PlayStation is renowned for its great driving games, got to have a few of those. I would put a Wipeout on there. Now, I think Novabug said Wipeout 3 was his favorite. And I'm not a big expert on the Wipeouts. I've got Wipeout XL, which I had researched and heard that was probably the best of all the Wipeout games for the PlayStation 1. But if somebody wants to let me know, is 3 better, or that 2069, whatever the heck that other one is, should I be getting that instead? Everybody that I had read online had said Wipeout XL was the one to get, and I've been very happy with it, but am I missing out something? Let me know. Another racing game, and this is one I really want to get, is Race Drivin' A Go-Go. This is Race Drivin', also known as Hard Drivin', where you're in that 3D, very rudimentary polygon world, and you're driving around and you're doing the stunts and all that kind of stuff. There's multiple versions of this. In fact, I've also played it on the Game Boy, which is fantastic. None of them have really captured what the arcade machine, and I played the arcade machine. I have looked online. I think the one for the original Xbox, I think it's on a combination of like Midway Treasures, that might be doable. What would be absolutely critical for me, though, is to be able to play it with the Nijicon, because I love this controller, and I don't know that the PlayStation Mini is going to take, I keep calling it that, PlayStation Classic, is going to be able to plug in something like a Nijicon. But if it did, we're all dealing with hypotheticals here, then definitely Race Drivin' A Go-Go, because it is that game but with nicer sounding effects, and it's not so tinny, it's not so aggravating to listen to. Sticking with the Nijicon, this is a game that's actually already announced to be on the PlayStation Classic, and that is Ridge Racer R4. I've got it. I love it. It's a really good game. I'm glad they're putting it on there. The fact that the controller for the PlayStation Mini, PlayStation Classic, doesn't have analog sticks makes me wonder how are you supposed to play Ridge Racer R4, but regardless, it's a good game. Definitely has to be on there. And then, of course, Gran Turismo 2, specifically. I have it. Love it. I was torn between getting that or number 1, and most people were really, no, it's got to be Gran Turismo 2. What more can you say about that one? I'm just going to move on. But yes, Gran Turismo 2, fantastic game, has to be there. My next choice is, again, a bit of a cheat because it's 3 games on one disc, but 2 of the 3 are really good, so this has to be on there. And that is the Die Hard trilogy. It has the first game, which is based on the first movie. The second game is a light gun game, which is honestly phenomenal. I've got it. I play it with the Nijicon game gun that I've got. What a wonderful game. Third one's a bit of a, as you're driving around and stuff, I don't really like the third one, but I really think Die Hard Trilogy is one of the best games. It's got great replayability. It's a fantastic title. It has to be there. Now, the fact that Die Hard Trilogy, especially like the second game with the light gun game, it makes me think, I know for a fact, because you're John McClane, you're going through the building and you're shooting all the bad guys with your light gun. I'm thinking to myself, that sounds familiar for the PlayStation. Isn't there another game where you're like a cop and you're shooting, it's a light gun game, you're shooting like perpetrators or something? I could have sworn I'd heard of this game, but it's escaping me now. There's got to be some other cop game that's a light gun game for the PlayStation 1, but since I can't think of it, I'll go Die Hard Trilogy. Let's get a couple of space combat games in there. Wing Commander 4 is phenomenal, and I have it. I confess I haven't played the game yet. Like, I've tried it out and I've sort of controlled and seen, oh, this is really good. I haven't actually launched into the campaign, though. That's sort of on my back burner, but I have a bunch of stories about Wing Commander 4 that I'd like to get into sometime, so rather than make this video too long, I'm going to move past Wing Commander 4, but that's got to be on there. That's a fantastic game. And the other space fighting game that I would highly recommend, and that I have played, or I'm halfway through, is Colony Wars. Now, there's about 3 in this series. I guess number 1 I would choose, but they're all really good. Fantastic, and something that was not really around a lot of the other consoles. I'd never really understood why in an era in the 90s when like space combat games were really prevalent, especially on PC, how come not too many consoles did that? PlayStation did, and Colony Wars is fantastic, so that's got to go on there. For my next pick, I'm going to slowly hit the brakes a little bit on this one. Got to put a fighting game on there, and for me, it's got to be Street Fighter, specifically Street Fighter Alpha 3. And the reason I'm not terribly fond of Alpha 3 overall. I don't really play it that much. I do have it, but what is the appeal of Alpha 3 is, as you all know, I really like Chun-li, and that's the character I play. In this game, remember, this came out in the 90s, and she was kind of mostly in her unitard 90s outfit, like the gym gear, not her cheapao. What was kind of nice is with Street Fighter Alpha 3, if you play the, I think it's Xism fighting style, you actually can play her in her cheapao. They had sort of brought back the retro look. So I was like, oh yeah, that would be the one for me to play. Also, what's kind of nice about Alpha 3 is you take your fighting character and you go through all the levels, but you actually, like, you do a little bit of a role-playing progression thing. You can increase some of their stats and you unlock abilities and stuff. So it's unlike most of the Street Fighter games. You actually earn sort of points and you build them into your character. So Street Fighter Alpha 3 is a really good Street Fighter game, except for I don't play it very often. But yeah, that's got to be on that list. And while we're at it, we might as well throw another one of my Digital Crush ladies on the list. Darkstalkers. Darkstalkers 3, specifically. Felicia, love playing that game and love playing that character. Kicking myself that, and I've talked about this before, I saw that game for like $10 in the local retro store. Decided, I'll pick it up another time. Went to Portland Retro Gaming Expo. There it was for $20. I thought, I'll get it for 10 at the store again. It wasn't there anymore for 10. Next time at the Portland Retro Gaming store, it was $30. So it's like, I see the pattern. I should have picked it up. Oh well. So yeah, I'd put that on the PlayStation Classic. And just to round out another one of my Digital Crush ladies, Resident Evil 3. Because, hello, Jill Valentine was kind of what started that whole Digital Crush series, and in the blue outfit with the skirt and all that kind of stuff from the back cover, definitely Resident Evil 3 has to be on the PlayStation Mini. Classic. Next, I would choose Xevious 3DG Plus. I've actually done a video about it. I've got that game. It's really good, and it's a nice shoot 'em up, but polygonal and kind of interesting. They added some new things. I really like what they did with the Xevious game that I really enjoy. They made it modernized for the 90s. Xevious 3DG Plus is the game that I would put on there. Here's one that's a little bit obscure, but I love it. And again, would need a specialty controller. I've got the mouse for the PlayStation sitting over there. That is Starblade Alpha. Done a video about that. Love it. It's a great game. It really needs an alternate controller. You can't really use the thumbsticks for it. But what a great, I don't really know how to describe it. Full motion video, but you shoot things, game experience. I love Starblade Alpha. That would have to be on the PlayStation Classic, if you ask me. And here's one that kind of annoys me. I want this game, but I can't really rationalize getting it. In the Hunt. Now, it's a great side-scrolling, weird submarine shoot-'em-up game. A lot of fun. What kills it for me, I don't own it. And I wanted to keep all my PlayStation games that I have physical copies of the same format. You know, the standard CD size. And unfortunately, In the Hunt was an early game, I think. And anyway, it only ever comes in the long box version in North America. I was like, I don't want to like break the tradition of everything I have is like CD jewel case and then I got one long box. Forget that. I believe in Japan you could get it in CD box, and there might have been a limited run of it in the standard jewel case in North America, but it's apparently goes for crazy money, and I'm like, well, now I'm trapped. I don't want to spend a lot of cash on this thing, but I also don't want to really get a long box because it'll throw off. Nah, I'll pass. So, yeah, throw that on the PlayStation Classic. I'd be on board. Next would be Strikers 1945, because it's a really good shoot 'em up, but specifically, I would want the Japanese version. Why? Because you can actually put in cheat codes and stuff like that in some of these if you've got the ability of those little like Game Genie type devices. And what's neat about the Japanese version of Strikers 1945, if you can put in a cheat code, you can actually enable Tate mode, or maybe it's Tate mode, T-A-T-E. And that allows you to actually take the game and it's rotated 90 degrees. So if you then pick up your television and plunk it down on its end, you actually get the tall monitor, the way the game was supposed to be played. Fantastic. That would be the way to do it. I don't know that I want to necessarily tilt my TV, but I would want that option to be there. So, and imagine since we're assuming that the PlayStation Classic is going to be outputting to HDMI, maybe they would make it fill the screen completely, like lengthwise in a high def widescreen display, and then can you rotate that? I don't know. That would be really cool. So for my edition, I would definitely put in Strikers 1945, the Japanese version. Next on the list is Neketsu Oyaku, I believe it is, which is a Japanese-only game. And I think it translates to like Red-Blooded Family, something like that. It's sort of Final Fight-ish. You go side-scrolling beat 'em up, but you've got this guy who's very much like Hagar. You've got this girl on roller skates and the other guy who's sort of a lighter, almost like Guy the Ninja. Great game, really like it. I think it's one of those hidden gems of the PlayStation 1 that unfortunately we don't really see too much of, because especially when you consider it's a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up, there weren't tons of those, and it's really good. It's wacky but as heck, but really, really good. So yes, that would also be on my list. Rounding up the last few here now, I wanted to go a little bit unusual with a game called Panzer Front, which is a tank driving game and is very interesting because it's not going for kind of arcadey blow stuff up big style type of a game. It's a very realistic simulation of driving a tank in World War II. You would need to have the little analog thumbsticks because among all the different control schemes, you can actually have one where these are your tank treads. You know, a little bit like Battlezone. I did that little rig for the Atari 2600 controllers for Stramash Zone on the Vectrex. Same thing with this game. You can actually use the thumbsticks to move that way, and you've got all the buttons being used for, like, you know, scoping and laying mines. I think it's a World War II era tank game. It's really good. I've got it, and I've just dipped my toe into it, and I thought, oh, this is a game of some serious depth. So for me, that's one that I would love to see on that machine. And next, I think I would go with Ace Combat 2. Now, that's a really good flying type of a game. Looks great, plays great. Interestingly, it's on... They've actually made a 3DS version of that game, so if I wanted to take it on the go, I might actually just... If I can find that 3DS title, I might actually just do that. But regardless, I think a proper flying game... I've mentioned a few spaceship flying games and also the shoot-em-ups, but I think an actual game where you're flying an airplane would be handy or worthwhile putting on this collection, so that would definitely be in there. Ace Combat 2. And finally, the last entry on my list, Mech Warrior 2. A little bit like Panzer Front, you've got great complexity with the controls, you've got the mech going around, you can cycle through different weapons. It's a really, really good game. Unfortunately, there weren't too many other Mech Warrior games. There were lots of different mech titles for the PlayStation 1, but this was, I think, the only Mech Warrior one. The next one was like on the Xbox PS2. So, yeah, I would definitely want to have one of the Mech Warrior titles or a mech game on the PlayStation Classic, and Mech Warrior 2 has to be it. Alright, well there you go. There's my entries. Now again, I've got a PlayStation Classic mini device that I can plug into my high definition TV already, so I'm not really going to get any of these devices, these machines. But I did like where Novabug was going with this. You know, this wouldn't necessarily be the best games, and I do own some of these ones already, so why am I making them on this list? But I just thought, no, if you wanted to make a PlayStation Classic mini console that was sort of really spoke to me, those would be the 20 games that I would put on that machine. There were a few that didn't quite make the cut. It's sort of a moot point, though, because I'm not really going to get this thing, but an interesting kind of intellectual pursuit. Also, if they would please send this success out, the success Nintendo have had, and now I hope Sony has a lot of success with this little PlayStation device. If it's very successful and if the word gets out, I'm really hoping Sega might actually look at this and go, you know, we could probably release a Saturn Mini. I would be on there day one. It's the one console I can't really properly successfully replicate or emulate. Yes, I've got those versions on my phone, which are not bad, needs work. And of course, it's been almost impossible to replicate with like a Raspberry Pi. I think there's an Odroid device now, a little mini console that is sort of getting to the point it's going to do Saturn. So we're almost there. But I would happily buy one at the same price range, like this $100 or whatever. I would gladly buy a little Sega Saturn Mini from Sega, especially if I could add my own games, because there's stuff on there. Final Fight Revenge, for example, for Poison. I would want to be able to load my own games on that, because I don't think they're going to release a Sega Saturn Mini with Final Fight Revenge on there. It's not a highly sought after game or anything, so I don't think they would do it, but please, if anybody's out there listening to these Little miniature consoles, aren't they doing really well? Who else has got a miniature console? Sega Saturn. Forget Dreamcast. I know they've even been talking about, no, just skip that, go straight to the Dreamcast. No. I want a Sega Saturn. I want a miniature one. I think that would be so awesome. Please, Sega, make it happen. Okay, that's my wish list out there. All right, so there we go. There's a video response to Novabug. It was a very cool idea, and I wanted to do one. And until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.